Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's deep dive. I'm really excited about this one. We are taking you on a journey to explore something that honestly feels like magic.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those topics that completely changes how you look at the world around you.
Right. So our mission today is to look at the hyper-stylized, meticulously crafted cinematic worlds of director Wes Anderson. But we're looking at how that aesthetic actually exists in the real world.
Yeah, and we are not just talking about film theory here. We're diving into real-world urban design and geography.
Exactly. Because, when you think of that signature look, you think of, like, perfectly centered shots. You think of pastel color palettes, vintage placards, and just this striking militant symmetry.
Right, it's a very specific, very controlled visual language.
It is. And the analogy I keep coming back to is that it's like stepping inside this meticulously crafted vintage dollhouse.
Oh, a dollhouse is a perfect way to describe it.
Right. Because in a dollhouse, every single thing is intentional. The window shutters are perfectly uniform. Even the tiny street lights have this curated warm glow to them.
Yeah, nothing is out of place.
Exactly. But what's wild is that these aren't movie sets built on a backlot somewhere. These are real, living European towns. And they naturally mirror this cinematic aesthetic.
And I think that's why this matters so much. It's not just about a set decorator painting a fake wall pink for a few weeks of filming.
Yeah, it's real life.
Exactly. It's about the harmony of all these elements working together over generations. I mean, long before movies like the Grand Budapest Hotel or Moonrise Kingdom were even a concept, real architects were out there doing this.
They were already building these dollhouses.
Right. They were crafting these highly ordered, symmetrical squares and pastel street fronts. They were building the very environments that directors would later try to replicate on a soundstage.
So let's get into how they actually pull this off. Because, getting that level of visual harmony in a real functioning town seems like a massive logistical puzzle.
It is, but sometimes the physical geography actually forces that kind of layered visual harmony.
Yeah, that's the great transition, actually, because if we look at coastal towns, the landscape literally does the heavy lifting. The coastal cliffs basically stack the buildings like stadium seating for a camera.
Stadium seating for a camera. I love that. And it's so true because when you have a steep drop-off to the sea, the architecture just has no choice but to build upward.
Right, into these visible, distinct layers.
Exactly. And because of that incline, every single row of houses is perfectly on display from the water. You don't get buildings blocking each other.
And the absolute best example of this is Procida, Italy.
Oh, yes. Procida is incredible.
So for you listening, imagine you were on a boat in the Bay of Naples looking toward this volcanic island. And rising right above the marina, you see this stack of soft pinks, yellows, and blues.
It's just a wall of vibrant color.
It really is. There is this specific spot called Marina Coricella, where the fishermen's homes just curve around the water in this bright, cheerful semicircle.
Yeah, and there's a really fascinating logistical detail about Marina Coricella that makes it feel exactly like a closed movie set.
Oh, the traffic laws. I was just going to bring that up.
Go for it. It's such a wild detail.
Okay, so the narrow streets down there completely ban cars. No cars allowed at all. And it actually gets more extreme for the whole island.
Right, the seasonal ban.
Yeah. Non-resident vehicles are completely barred from the island between April 6 and October 31. So for over half the year, if you don't live there, you cannot bring a car.
Which is huge, because if you think about it from an aesthetic standpoint, the lack of modern cars is what preserves that invented reality.
Because cars are just messy, visually speaking.
Totally. Modern cars introduce so much visual chaos. They're all differently sized, highly reflective, painted in clashing colors. They instantly break the illusion of like a suspended era in time.
Right. They ruin the vintage vibe.
Exactly. So by removing the cars, Procida keeps its aesthetic pure. It's just you and the uninterrupted architecture.
But, it's not just the cute pastels down by the water. If you look up, the town really balances that whimsy with something else.
Yeah, you have the intense symmetry of the historic Terra Murata fortress up above.
And the Abbey of San Michele Arcangelo.
Exactly. Yeah. They are massive, imposing structures, and they provide this necessary visual anchor. Without that historic grandeur looming over the town, the pink and yellow harbor might just feel like a flimsy theme park.
Yeah, it grounds the whole scene. It gives it weight.
Right. That balance is what makes it feel so film-ready.
Okay, so keeping with this idea of gravity and coastal geography, I want to take you up the Mediterranean coast to Menton, France.
Menton is gorgeous. It's right tucked between the mountains and the sea.
Yeah, right near the Italian border.
Yeah.
And the old town there has these incredible sun-washed yellows, oranges, and peach tones.
The color palette definitely shifts to match the Riviera vibe.
For sure. But there's a specific detail I want to point out. If you go to the Plage des Sablets, which is this beach right below the town, you get this crazy forced perspective.
Right, where you can stand on the sand and just look straight up.
Yes. You stand on the beach, look up, and the brightest array of buildings is just stacked perfectly in front of you. The town naturally looms over you, framing the shot perfectly. It makes you feel like you're the director of your own vacation.
That's spot on. The natural geography creates that forced perspective camera shot for you. You don't even have to try to find the good angle.
It's just handed to you.
Exactly. And the architects use that. Right in the middle of all those layered peach buildings is this grand staircase leading up to the Basilica of Saint-Michel-Archange.
Oh, wow. So it literally draws your eye up.
Yeah, it acts as a dramatic focal point. It cuts right through the layers and pulls your vision straight from the water up to the church.
Okay, so coastal towns have it easy, in a way. The land slopes and gravity does the work of stacking the buildings for the camera.
Right, they have a natural advantage.
But what happens when you move inland? Because creating that cinematic symmetry on flat ground or just in a regular valley seems inherently harder.
It is a totally different architectural challenge. Inland towns don't have that natural stadium seating, so they have to rely on deliberate historical architecture to create that layered visual harmony.
So they basically have to manufacture it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They use design to create a sense of theatrical rhythm and suspended time.
Which perfectly brings us to our next stop, Karlovy Vary in the Czech Republic.
A phenomenal example.
Yeah, it's this historic spa town situated in a really narrow valley along the Tepla River. And when you look at it, you see these incredibly neat layers of pastel spa houses just lining the hillsides.
The colonnades there are so specific to that aesthetic.
Yes, the graceful colonnades.
Mhm.
You've got the highly detailed mill colonnade, the area market colonnade, and of course the majestic Grand Hotel pup looming nearby.
It is highly, highly curated.
Okay, but I have to push back a little here. When you describe a town where every single building is perfectly uniform and follows a strict pastel palette, it sounds a little, dystopian.
Dystopia.
Yeah, like a sterile theme park. Or some sci-fi movie where everything is a little too perfect. Like, why isn't a place like Karlovy Vary just deeply unsettling to walk through?
That is a really fair question. But you have to think about what the town was designed to do. It's a spa town. People went there to treat their bodies with the mineral spring.
Right, for physical wellness.
But the architects knew that true wellness is mental too. The appeal of these places is that they offer an escape into visual order. It was designed to literally be a spa for the eyes.
A spa for the eyes. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So the environment is the treatment.
Exactly. Think about the 19th century when this was booming. The outside industrial world was loud, dirty, and chaotic. Stepping into Karlovy Vary, where even the buildings agree on a soothing color palette, was an architectural exhale.
Wow. Okay. That makes so much sense.
And that theatrical rhythm we mentioned, it literally paces your body. When you stroll between the springs, walking through the repeating arches of the mill colonnade, the visual repetition slows your walking speed.
So it was like a visual metronome.
Yes. It regulates your breathing and forces you into this leisurely cinematic tempo.
That is incredible. Okay, so if Karlovy Vary slows down your pace, our next town basically stops time altogether.
Yes, let's head to Germany.
Right, to the eastern edge of Germany, to a town called Görlitz. This place is, well, it's known as a walkable time capsule.
It really is. The preservation there is unmatched.
It's wild. You can see Renaissance-era townhouses that have these ornate Baroque exteriors just layered onto them.
And the decorative shop fronts, too.
Yeah, and the Untermark Square with its colorful arcades and the towers of the St. Peter and Paul Church. It's just a seamless merging of eras. But how did it stay so perfectly preserved?
Well, the history there is unique because Görlitz was almost entirely spared from the bombing during World War II.
Which is incredibly rare for a German city.
Exactly. Most cities had to rebuild with modern or brutalist architecture, but Görlitz's historical fabric just survived intact.
Which brings us to the big reveal. The detail I mentioned at the very top of the show.
The department store.
Yes. The Görlitz department store literally is the real Grand Budapest Hotel. The director just walked into this preserved, highly symmetrical building and shot his masterpiece inside it.
And that is why Görlitz represents the absolute pinnacle of this Wes Anderson aesthetic.
Because it's already a movie set.
Right. It offers this nostalgic hint of timelessness. The visual order is so incredibly preserved that a filmmaker barely has to change anything.
It's just waiting for a camera. Okay, but I see a potential flaw in this whole fantasy.
Okay, what is?
Look at the places we've covered. Procida is a small island where cars are banned. Menton is a serene beachside town. Karlovy Vary is a quiet spa valley. And Görlitz is a preserved historic square.
They're all very controlled environments.
Exactly. They are inherently quiet and controlled. So my question is, can a massive, chaotic, living city actually pull this off? Does the illusion completely shatter when you have a sprawling metropolis with millions of people?
That is the ultimate test of the aesthetic. And the answer is yes. It can survive metropolis. You just have to look at Lisbon, Portugal.
Oh, Lisbon. That is a massive city. It's built across 7 hills overlooking the Tagus River.
It is huge, and it is busy. But Lisbon generates pure main character energy.
Main character energy. I love that.
It's true. It maintains this harmonious layout. Just look at the Praça do Comércio.
Yeah.
You have these grand symmetrical arches that anchor the city.
And the colors. You've got the pastel buildings and those famous patterned tiled exteriors.
Right. The tiles are iconic.
And if you go up to the Mirador de Santa Catarina, you get these incredible panoramic views. Plus, you have those vivid yellow trams weaving through the streets.
The trams are basically perfect kinetic focal points. They draw the eye right through the pastel background.
Okay, but here is my pushback. Lisbon is a living city, right? People live their messy lives there.
Definitely.
So think about the historic Alfama district. You have these super narrow streets, and the balconies are just stacked with drying laundry.
Yeah, laundry everywhere.
Normally, laundry hanging across the street just looks like messy clutter. It feels disorganized. Why does it work in Lisbon? Why doesn't it ruin the cinematic illusion?
Because of the context. If that laundry was hanging over a gray, concrete suburban street, it would be clutter. But in the Alfama district, it's hanging against those vivid tiles and warm pastel walls.
So the background changes how we see it.
Exactly. In that context, the laundry stops being clutter and becomes texture and movement. I like to call it visual Foley art.
Wait, visual Foley art?
Right.
Like sound effects in a movie?
Exactly like that. Foley art, the sound of footsteps or a door creaking, gives a scene life. Without it, a movie feels dead.
Oh, I see.
Visually, a perfectly clean, empty street in Lisbon would just look like a sterile museum. The laundry fluttering in the breeze gives the scene its soul.
It makes it feel lived in.
Yes. The aesthetic isn't just about sterile perfection. The charm comes from the lived-in details existing within that beautiful, intentional framework.
Wow. So it's the contrast of the chaotic life happening inside the perfect dollhouse.
Precisely. That's what makes it feel so magical.
Well, let's recap this incredible journey for you listening at home. We started by looking at how natural coastal geography creates layered perspectives, from the car-free, colorful semicircles of Procida.
Painted so fishermen could find them in the fog.
Right, and the dramatic staircases of Menton. Then we moved inland to see how deliberate architecture paces us, like in the visually soothing spa town of Karlovy Vary.
A spa for the eyes.
Exactly. And the walkable time capsule of Görlitz, which literally gave us the Grand Budapest Hotel. And finally, we saw how a massive city like Lisbon uses textured, lived-in details like laundry and yellow trams to create a cinematic soul.
And the reason we are so drawn to these places isn't just to take photos.
Right, there is a deeper psychological draw.
Absolutely. In an often chaotic, visually overwhelming world, there is something deeply soothing about stepping into a space where every element feels intentional and harmonious. From a warm street lamp to a uniform shutter, that visual order grounds us.
Which leaves me with a final provocative thought for you to mull over. You don't necessarily need to travel to the Bay of Naples or the eastern edge of Germany to experience this.
Nope, it's closer than you think.
If the secret to the cinematic charm is simply the harmony of elements working together, what subtle details in your own daily environment might you be missing? Is there a repeating pattern on a brick wall during your commute? Or maybe a specific warm glow spilling out of your neighborhood bakery? What elements might already be framing your everyday routine into a cinematic moment if only you adjusted your lens to see it? Think about it. See you next time.